Hey guys, it is Mike with Become the Night. Welcome back to another Ask a Music Snob. This is the show where you guys who follow me on Instagram will look at my story that goes up every couple of weeks, and there'll be a little question sticker for you guys to send in your questions. You can ask me anything you'd like, and I will answer them. Pretty self-explanatory. Let's get into it. Would you consider doing a Snobcast with Anthony Fantana? For those of you who don't know, I had a thing going for a little bit. It was called the Snobcast. It was my podcast version where I just have a whole bunch of different people on and we just talk all kinds of music and stuff. It was really cool. But I think it hurt my channel numbers a lot because that long form content wasn't being sent out to all of my viewers and not a whole bunch of people were watching it. So because those views were low, it was hurting how my channel performs in SEO. Long story, complicated shit. All that being said, would I be happy to do a podcast or even just have him as a quick interview on the channel? Absolutely, it'd be great. I would be happy to pick his brain a little bit, see what he thinks, especially in prog, because I feel like he doesn't like a whole lot of prog, but there's some prog bands he's down with. I'm not sure. I know he at least gets it to a certain extent. Could be cool. Could be really cool. Opinions on Spotify independently promoting and publishing artists. My first gut instinct is great. Now, I don't know anything about what these contracts would look like, what the details are, so I cannot definitively say whether this is a good thing or bad thing, but I will say that we don't need publishing houses anymore, and honestly, we didn't really need them that much in the first place. And we really don't need labels anymore. I mean, we do need some sort of funding mechanism to keep it on the scale at which we're moving, so I do understand that. However, these businesses, as they've always been, need to adapt a hell of a lot more than they have been. And Spotify kind of cutting out the middleman, aka the publishing and music labels, yeah, fuck it, get rid of them. Wasted space, wasted money. Do you think sight reading music for rock guitar is important? Can you sight read? First, no, I cannot sight read. I guess technically you could say I can sight read, just extraordinarily terribly. Is sight reading for rock important? No, it's not really an important skill. Is it an extremely useful skill to have? Absolutely. If you want to get yourself to the point where you can sight read, you are going to make yourself far more valuable to so many more people. At the end of the day, if you're playing a rock show, I shouldn't say unwritten rule, but really the classic way of doing it is nothing on stage that you're reading from. Keep it real, have everything memorized. So no, it's not important, but if you're gonna try to do it, like, do it. Really go for it, because it's so valuable to have that skill. What's the biggest misconception about prog? I think the biggest misconception is the fact that it has to be very intricate and complicated and hard to understand. You can have songs that qualify as prog, at least to me, that are very digestible, very accessible to the public. By its nature, it's not usually going to be because it's not usual, but that doesn't mean that it can't be. Just because something is really complicated doesn't mean that it's immediately prog, and just because something isn't complicated and is accessible to the public doesn't mean that it's not prog. So yeah, I think that's a huge misconception. And I mean, a lot of people get into prog into the first place just because of the absolute mind-blowing musicianship that happens. I know that was the first thing that attracted me. But as you really start to understand music more and understand actual prog more, you start to get that the musicianship is just not just a show, but it's the fact that you need that level of musicianship so that you have as little limits as possible when writing. What makes a song a hit, and are all hit songs good? The slang term hit comes from back in old times, and it's actually a baseball reference. Like, a hit means like you did something great, it was really good, you got the hit. If you hit a home run, it's like, man, that was a home run, like, that was amazing. You did the greatest thing you could possibly do. So put simply, a hit is a song that sells a lot or gets a lot of plays or is just very popular in general. Now that we know what a hit is, are all hit songs good? No. We've already established this, at least for our opinions on this channel. Anyway. What's a guitar you'd love to see a lefty version of? The Ibanez Gem, Steve Vai's signature guitar. I would love to get a hand on a left-handed version of that. I only got to play that guitar one time ever at Guitar Center. I was already out of practice and I had to play it upside down. It was the most embarrassing experience of my life. It was so dissatisfying. Have you played Breath of the Wild? What are your thoughts on the game? I have played Breath of the Wild. I've beaten it 3 times, including the DLC. and my thoughts on the game. I had so many thoughts on the game, I actually would have considered making an entire video about it, but it has nothing to do with music, so I can't really talk about it. First of all, it's a really, really good video game, so well designed. But by the end of your first time playing it, and definitely on subsequent playthroughs, you start to really see where the gaps are in the game and what really suffers once you are familiar with how far you can go with stuff, rather what your limitations are. Part of what made this game so amazing to play your first time around is you literally feel like you can do anything and everything is interactable and there's all of these things to discover. This game is literally designed to make you discover as much stuff as you possibly can, and they've purposefully put elements in the game and design things a certain way to encourage you and incentivize you to go and explore things you've never explored before. Excellent design. Although I will say the actual negative side of that is a lot of the things that you go and you find are not very exciting. I wish there were more unique items to find. I wish there was more story involved, because the story was pretty much absent throughout the whole thing. With the exception of shrines, which even a lot of them were as simple as find it, go in, collect your orb, get the fuck out. With the exception of shrines, I would say that 90% of the stuff that you explore and find on your own or find clues to go find somewhere else are pretty boring. I did almost no side quests because most of the side quests were fetch quests or kill mobs, collect rupees. That's it. That is so not fun at all. I do not like doing grinding. Now, with all the problems that I'm picking out here, I still loved that game. I still play that game. Combat system is outstanding. You can be so creative with how you attack enemies or go about strategizing the best way to take people down. So cool. I just have a feeling that Nintendo, I think they had to remake this game, scrap and start from scratch like 2 times or something, and they were already so behind. They promised a new Zelda for the Wii U, and they were already pushing out the Switch. So people were starting to get a little bit pissed off because they bought a Wii U for this game. So Nintendo was kind of at like hey, we need to get this out now. And this is a gargantuanly huge game, but there's still so much missing. So it's like, you gotta take what we can do. My drummer Ryan told me that there's actually some files in the game or like assets or something for an actual like castle during a time when it wasn't like post-apocalyptic. I think it was supposed to be hinting towards the fact that there might have actually been a time travel aspect to the game. And I'm hoping and praying now with how successful this game was that Nintendo doesn't over gimmick itself to death like it normally does on Zelda games and Mario games, and keeps this highly exploratory format and builds on it. I don't want them to change too much stuff on the ground level of what we have. I want them to add more to it. What's your favorite guitar solo in a song? Well, for one, I would never tell you that without telling you in a top 10 video because views. 2, I don't 100% know, but I can tell you what my answer was when I was 18. If we're talking about just favorite guitar solo for the fact that it was just a badass solo, it was actually We'll Meet Again by Pantera off the Power Metal album. That song is awful. That guitar solo is fucking amazing. His touch, his feel, the tone of his guitar, like going in between that usual Dimebag style, but then kind of making it sound almost like 8-bit Nintendo type shit. So badass. And if we're talking about favorite solo written to match the song so well, would absolutely be Floods, also by Pantera. The solo for Floods is amazing. It's just stupidly well written. Who's someone in pop music you think is the most deserving of the praise and fame that they get? I'll be honest, I don't think any of them are, and it's not a reflection upon them as a person or the talent that they possess. It is a reflection upon their fan base and how over the top they feel about these pop artists. Yes, some of them are extraordinarily talented. I will give them that, absolutely. But are they the best ever? Usually not. And on top of that, are they queens? Are they gods? No, none of them are. They are people. Having said all that, to really address your question, a couple of people that I think do deserve at least some amount of praise and fame. Definitely Lady Gaga. Very, very talented lady. Great voice. I think Adele is really good. She's a sweetheart too. And Childish Gambino. Childish Gambino, excellent. Really, really good, man. Do you think CDs are out of fashion? I think that's pretty much its own answer. Yeah. If you have to ask, it's probably out of fashion. It's more fashionable to collect vinyls than it is to collect CDs, and CDs are too bulky to carry around as a mobile source of music, especially when you got an entire, many generations worth of music in a library on your phone. If we can take another great technological leap without killing ourselves with technology or AI, I think our next step is high fidelity streaming, and I think that's where you're gonna see things like the CD have no more real utility at all, especially as we get the digital audio converter better and better in our phones. Yeah, it'll be phased out completely. I still like CDs. I still buy them. I pre-ordered the Dream Theater CD. But at the end of the day, yeah, I think its time is coming. Rumor has it that ACCDC will have old recorded unreleased riffs on the new album. Thoughts? My only thought is, how are fans gonna know whether it was written back in the old days or written yesterday? Because all of their shit sounds exactly the same. It's like an off-brand American cheese company said that we're releasing our specialty cheese that we made years and years ago. At the end of the day, it's still store-bought American cheese in little singlets packets. It's the same fucking thing. Do musicians just decide to write in odd time signatures? I'm not exactly sure what you're asking, but I'll try and answer it as best I can. There are a lot of different ways of going about writing songs. Sometimes things are very methodical and very intentional. Other times they're very free-flowing, stream of thought type of things. I know when I write, 90% of the time, that odd time signature comes out naturally because I just like that sound. I have listened to enough weird odd time signature shit to where that's just how I think musically now. But it really depends. Who do you think should sit on the Iron Throne?
Hold on.
That is it for Ask a Music Snob. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please go ahead and follow me on Instagram. Keep your eye out for that story. That'll be 2 weeks, I think. And you can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter at Become the Night. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next video. Rock on!